And once again, thank you everybody for joining this info session on the Educational Ministries Department. I'm going to pass it off to Dr. Jim Moore, who is the chair of the department and also an associate professor. And he's going to introduce you to our panelists today and lead the conversation. Dr. Moore?
Great, welcome. Thank you so much for being here and taking time out of your day to join us in this presentation on the MA in Educational Ministries program here at TEDS. And I'm absolutely thrilled that we have 5 of our really sharp students joining us today who, frankly, our students carry the program. Our participants carry the program, and they're the ones who make it interesting for you. So we trust that you will find this to be a good few minutes that you spend with us. And let me just introduce our persons briefly. Dr. Donald Guthrie is a faculty member, if you wave there, faculty member also in the Educational Ministries Department. He's also director of our PhD program, Educational Studies, and teaches both at the master's and doctoral level, as do each of the members of our department. So he's the only other faculty member joining us for this time period. We have Lavdi Karoshi joining us from Albania, and she has taken the program fully online. So that's the kind of ways that she's been able to do it. Siri, Andrea, I'm gonna let you pronounce your name, my friend. It's about this long, and he's a brother who's in France. Pronounce your name for us, Siri.
The full name is Andrea Manampisua, but Andrea is fine as well.
So thank you for joining us today, Siri. And he's in Deerfield, but of course we've all been doing some online kinds of things the last year or so. Julie Jin is here in Illinois. She's right down the street from campus, and of course has sort of started online, but she'll also be doing some things in the classroom. Taylor Schultz is here in Wisconsin, and Taylor is nearing the end of his program, finishing it out. And Taylor is also has some experience working at our camp. Trinity owns a camp in Wisconsin, had some experience with that. And then Annalyn Frazier is joining us from Kansas City. Missouri?
Yeah, Columbia, Missouri. Yeah.
Columbia, Missouri. I always get that wrong. So thank you, Annalyn. She's a graduate of our program and pastoring in a church. So it's just great to have a good representation here. So I'm going to start out and give just sort of an elevator speech of the program, kind of boom, 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 to give you an overview of what the program's about. Have Dr. Guthrie make any comment that he would like to make, and then we're going to just kind of throw it to our participants here and let you hear from them. So the Master of Arts in Educational Ministries program is a 36 semester hour program, and its purpose is to equip persons in congregational or parachurch leadership for collaborative ministry engagement and for formational teaching and learning of others. Now that's a mouthful, and you can read that again in the catalog or on the website. But what I want you to pick up is there's basically 3 focus areas that we try to plan our curriculum in as we develop our curriculum in the program. The first is congregational life. Most of us are involved in some particular kind of church ministry or perhaps other church ministry. And so we're thinking about the different kind of age groups in the church, the administration of the church, the way the church operates in terms of congregational life. Secondly, collaborative ministry engagement. What we're interested in this area is leadership capacity, vocational stewardship, socio-cultural analysis, small groups, team development, sort of the interactive components as we work together in church ministry and ministry more broadly. The third area is formational learning. What we're interested in is things like discipleship, formation, curriculum design, equipping Bible teachers, these kinds of things. We have chosen in our program to take what we call the 30,000 foot level look at the program. Rather than trying to proliferate a master's degree in youth ministry, camping ministry, adult ministry, pick your whatever ministry, we're trying to take the big picture look and then encouraging each participant to contextualize into their particular ministry context. And so this gives you the opportunity in your classes to interact with people who may not be doing exactly the same thing that you are, but are still interested in kingdom building through the work of the church and parachurch ministries. So what we really are trying to think about, we realize that you may be a youth pastor now, but you're probably not always going to be a youth pastor. You may be working with children, but you may find yourself drafted into other areas of ministry, and some of our participants may speak to that. But we're interested in trying to help practitioners who are serving currently or will serve in the future to cultivate their ministry abilities and strengthen pastoral leadership. We're not interested in our program in, per se, developing senior pastors, but we're interested in helping people who will contribute to the ongoing ministry of the church, whether that's in a full-time staff position or whether that's as a volunteer. So we really look to our participants in the program to contribute actively, to bring their experience to the table, to help us think critically about ministry, to help us bring to the community of learning really a breadth of understanding. Our courses in the program are available in several different modalities. We have semester-length courses on campus. We have short-term courses on campus. We have weekend courses on campus. We do some summer classes. We do some classes at extension sites. And we have a fully online MA program. So this program can be completed fully online. Now, we do tell people that not every course is available in all modes in every semester. So it changes regularly. But that's where our advisement comes in with faculty. We will help you in sort of tailoring the program to your particular needs. And the wonderful thing is you can mix and match these different modalities. We have some of our distance online students that actually come into campus for a week and take a couple of classes because of the way we schedule them. So these kinds of options are certainly available to you. The program is open in terms of admission requirements. The program is open to persons who have a bachelor's degree. It may be in something like educational ministries or Bible or theology or some sort of social science, psychology or sociology. Or it may be a degree in education, maybe public education or secondary education. And people who have had some leadership experience. In other words, people that have engaged in ministry. These are the kind of people. So consequently, probably the average age of students in our program is somewhere in the 30s, because a lot of these people already come to us with experience. Now, you may not have a bachelor's degree, but you are still a candidate for this program. If you've had ministry experience and you've engaged in that ministry experience, you're able to do graduate theological work, we would encourage you to apply just as well. So you need not have a bachelor's degree to enroll in this program. Just briefly, the curriculum. 36 semester hours, about 2 years of full-time study, probably about 4, maybe 5 of part-time study if you're taking a class or 2 a semester. 3 central parts really to the program. There's a Bible theology area. There's an educational ministries core area, where in that area you take a general course in educational ministries, you take a course in leadership, and a course in teaching and learning. And then the rest of the program is in the educational ministries concentration with a lot of flexibility in terms of courses, and ending with a capstone for 36 semester hours. One final comment. I just thought it'd be interesting to you perhaps to tell you what kind of courses are coming up for electives this next year. And let me just rattle those off quickly. A class in Christian formation, youth and emerging adults, teaching others to teach, online teaching and learning, developing healthy spiritual leaders, spiritual formation in the family, children in congregations, local churches system, and theological education in North America. So these are the kinds of courses and what you can expect if you enroll in this program. Now, let me also say a quick word about our certificate programs. We have 3 certificates in the educational department, educational ministries department, and those 3 certificates really focus on these different areas in the MA program. One certificate is in educational ministries, broadly defined. A second is in teaching and learning. And a third is in organizational leadership. And in each of those certificates, which are only 12 semester hours in length, in each of those certificates, you take basically one required course and then some other courses that would fit into that area. The master's level certificates are available online with some flexibility kinds of things built in. And also in the teaching and learning certificate, as well as the organizational leadership certificate, those are available for also in what we call the executive track for people who already have an MDiv degree or perhaps a doctoral degree that want to learn more about how do I teach in the classroom, or how do I work in terms of organizational context. These 12 semester hour things can also be plugged into a full degree at Trinity. So they're applicable in those ways as well. So I hope that gives you a little bit of an overview of the programs, and I'd like to ask Dr. Guthrie if he has any comments or something I missed or something you'd like to accentuate in this area. Donald?
Yeah, thanks. I just want to say two things quickly. One is we believe that none of us is the end of our own education. So we don't think that this degree is the end of anything, and neither are we, and neither are you. We think that this is a means to an end to serve the people of God, to bring God glory. That's what we're up to. The other thing that I just want to underscore that Dr. Moore just said was this is a systems, you might say this is a systems degree, because the people who take the degree are systems people. You're the glue people in your system. You're the person who perhaps does frontline ministry, but you're also the person who trains the people who do frontline ministry, increasingly so. So we're aware of that, and we assume that, so that we teach and train and equip as if that's the case, because it is the case. That's as you mentioned, Dr. Moore, that's who we all are in the faculty, but that's also who the community really represents. So we're happy to serve you, happy to receive questions as far as this is concerned today, but also happy to stay in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Guthrie. Appreciate that very much. So let me just turn to our participants, and each of them can, I'm just going to ask if they would maybe, this kind of a softball question, if you'd answer in a minute or two. Why Trinity? I mean, what has drawn you to the MA in Educational Ministries program here at TEDS? And perhaps tell us just a little bit about your ministry context and how you see it fitting in with your ministry context. And I'd like to start out with Julie, who this is her very first semester at TED, so she can give you just the latest on that particular question. Julie, and then someone else jump in after her.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Moore. Hi, everyone. I'm Julie, and one of the reasons why I chose TEDS is because I actually have a very good friend who I ministered alongside, and she entered this program and saw the ways that God really used it to kind of elevate her, the context within which she was ministering, just in terms of being able to understand, like Dr. Guthrie mentioned, systems. And as I think about ministry, I personally, my context is in children's ministry, and now I'm kind of moving on to adult ministry. But one of the things I really believe is that when you're called into ministry, God really equips you personally. But there's also within ministry, there's a system aspect of it that I felt like I really needed to lean on others who have gone before me to kind of learn from. And I thought TEDS was definitely a place that's been a proven place, especially seeing it personally from how it worked out in my friend's life. And so that's why I got interested. And then the more I read about it, the more I felt like this really was a program for me.
Great, thank you, Julie. Appreciate that orientation. Siri, why don't you say something about your own ministry context, which is a little different, and you added to a master's in theological studies, the Educational Ministries program.
Yeah, so hello everyone. So I'm Siri, I'm French, and I moved here actually for the MA in theological study to start with. But because I have different electives, I took a class on leadership, introduction to educational ministry and leadership, and I realized actually during that class how important that aspect is to ministry. As far as I'm concerned, I will return to France actually this summer and I would join a pastoral team in a local church in my hometown. And 1 year, 2 years later, I will go for a church plant and lead a church plant. And because of my background, I have a master's degree in management, and I worked more than 15 years in a different managerial position. I realized how the system is important, how actually, like Dr. Guthrie said, most of the organization actually fall because the system is not glued enough, strong enough. And I've seen so many churches actually go through crisis because the leadership, because of leadership issues and that type of things. So I want to go to ministry equipped on how to build a cohesive team, but center on the gospel for the glory of God, not like any corporation. And I truly believe that this program offers this opportunity. I actually told my wife that MDiv students should actually take a lot of the classes in the program, because the first challenge that we'd face is more organizational than actually doctrinal or theological. So to me, it's very important.
Great, Siri. Thank you. That's really helpful to see your ministry context and where the Lord is leading you as you return back to France. Lavdi, you've taken the program fully online, and you're in a completely different context than North America. How does this program fit with your own context?
I live in Albania, which is in Europe, far east of America. And the reason I chose to come to TEDS is that I wanted a program who was fully online. And actually, I work with crew, and we are doing digital ministry. So I wanted to learn more, not how to share the gospel and disciple the college students, because that's what Campus Crusade most of the time does, but how to share the gospel with adults. And I really wanted to formal studies or formal training on how to do that. So it was a perfect match, an online study to teach me how to do online, how to share online and how to disciple others online. The reason I chose TEDS is because it was fully online and I could do it with my own pace. I am a mother of 3 and I am full-time in ministry, so I don't have the time to do a master's program full-time. So, and Trinity is really good. If you wanted to complete it in 2 years, you can do it. If you want to take small steps, as I'm doing, take 1 class per semester, they really accommodate you in this. So this was the second reason. And the third one was that, as Dr. Moore said, I didn't want it to specialize in children's ministry. For example, I wanted this holistic approach, or this big picture, and Trinity has it in its curricula. So it has helped me so far, because I'm doing the online studies, and actually I'm teaching others in an online context as well. So I'm seeing the principles and I'm just applying it in my context.
Thank you, Lavdi. And Lavdi is just one of many examples of a seasoned veteran, really, in digital evangelism. When she first talked about digital evangelism, I said, what in the world is that? And here she knows more about this stuff than we do. So that's the kind of superb colleagues that you learn from in the program. Taylor, I'm going to turn to you next, and tell us a little bit about why Trinity, but more importantly, perhaps why this program, as you're trying to seek what the Lord has for you in the future.
Yeah, that's a great question. I chose Trinity because of the connection through my work. Like Dr. Moore said, I work for Camp Timberley. We're a Christian summer camp, well, year-round camp that is owned by Trinity. So we minister to children, mainly youth and children. And so I was looking for a degree that would help me basically know how to create programming that would be age appropriate and effective, especially with all the various different kinds of learners that are around these days. So looking at my role here, that's what kind of led me to TEDS, and then led me to the Educational Ministries program, because getting your Master's of Divinity is awesome, But for my context, I actually was needing more something that was a little bit more flexible and more holistic in approach, because camp ministry is a very unique form of ministry in the parachurch ministry. So far it hasn't let me down. The classes have been very, very systematic and very, very broad, and allowed me to take aspects and apply it in my ministry context easily. So
that's great, Taylor. And he said, so far it hasn't let you down. I'll just say he's at the end of his program, so I guess we made it. So hopefully by the end of this semester, he'll be finished. So thanks, Taylor, for that great comment. Anna Lynn, you're done with the program. And I remember when you started, you combined this with the MDiv program. So I'm kind of curious why you did that, but why you have a very interesting ministry. So how has this program facilitated and fit into your ministry? And probably you would not find a degree in the kind of ministry you're doing anyway. So can you tell us a little bit, Anna Lynn, if you would?
Certainly. So I moved to Deerfield for the MDiv in fall of 2016, so a handful of years ago. And I got about 2 years into the program, into the MDiv, before adding the MA in educational ministries on top of that. And the main thing that motivated me to do that was I took the required EM course for the MDiv program, sort of this overview of educational ministries and leadership. And I realized that in the MDiv, you learn, it's a really broad degree. You get to learn a lot of the things you need to know in order to do ministry. So about the Bible and about theology, and you get to study the languages, and you learn counseling, all this stuff. You learn the what of what you need to know. But this educational ministries class was really getting at the how to do the ministry itself. So it's one thing to know it all in your head. It's another thing to communicate it effectively with people at a whole spectrum of spiritual development. And so I came out of a college ministry context. I also worked with Crew for a couple of years, and I became a Christian in college myself. So I know what it's like to speak to people who don't have any context for Jesus, who aren't from any kind of church background. And the EM program is very learner-centered. That's a buzzword, I feel like, where it's about the teacher really thinking about the student first, and instead of presenting the material I've planned to present, it's about understanding and knowing the student and loving the student in a servant way in order to communicate truths. And so my current ministry context, I am working fully in digital ministry for a church. So I started out doing small group ministry, and that was going to be part-time, doing online ministry too, mainly developing curriculum and content that people could use, like access online and use online. But the pandemic really accelerated and shifted that online role. And so this summer I moved full-time into that position. And so I act as like a content manager, where I'm using my MDiv and my master's in EM to think really creatively about how, again, to address just the broadest section of audience you can imagine. Their commonality is that they're spending most of their day scrolling on their phone. So how can we be there on their phone, on the computer, on the internet with them, to kind of arrest that scroll and help them think about Jesus more in their day. And so, yeah, so this, again, contextualizing, thinking about the learner, thinking about your audience has helped me adapt to this new ministry context in a way that's I've been really grateful for. Like, I can see now, looking back, it wasn't my plan to add the second degree. It wasn't my plan. I even started this job before I finished the program. So I moved back to Missouri, and then I did online, and I'd come for weekends, and I even came for one more semester and lived full-time in Deerfield. So gotten to experience all these different types of classes. But the Lord really paved a way, and the flexibility of the educational ministries department really enabled me to finish that strong and enabled me to do the work I'm doing now.
Great, thank you, Annalyn. Your example and Julie's example as well, and even Taylor's and others, just an example how the Lord doesn't necessarily keep us in one particular ministry furrow, but he moves us around, and we really try to enable in the program for you to be able to move around in those particular areas. So let me ask a question, and two or three of you can jump in on this if you'd like. What would you say is the greatest aha moment you've had as you've proceeded in the program? How have we either met or exceeded your expectations, or what is like a big thing you're walking away with as you've sort of proceeded in the program to this point in time? Maybe two or three of you jump in on that. Julie?
Yeah, I can speak to it a little bit. Dr. Moore and I had conversations before I joined and started at TEDS, and something that you said, Dr. Moore, always has stayed with me, and I think I told you this before too, but we were talking about how really this is an opportunity for me to personally add to my life portfolio, and also within the ministry context to be able to add to my toolbox, so to speak. And I think I was really excited to do that, and I fully expected that would be the case. And I'm only one semester, halfway into my first semester, but already, and my first class, really my first online class. But what I've really been impressed by is not only have I been able to add to my toolbox of ministry kind of knowledge that I can fall back on, but I've really been impressed by how through this current class that I'm taking, I've been able to get a greater and more fuller, deeper understanding of the tools that I already had in my toolbox, and how I can use that to not only come alongside people and helping them and training them to care for others, but also just for myself personally. It's been such a huge personal growth for me, and also to have language around the things in the system aspect of ministry that I felt or experienced, or things that I've seen in leadership, that I now have language around and know that that is actually part of a system, that it's something that is experienced not just by me, but others, and then also being able to learn from that and then use that within my context to then also help pastor and shepherd other people through those experiences as well. As Siri talked about, leadership, and how sometimes our leaders fall short in being able to lead the way that, in a godly way sometimes, that we expect. And that has an impact on the congregation around you. And so being able to have language to share around those experiences have been really helpful, and a huge aha thing for me that I take away with.
I could speak to the integrative methods that we learn. So in addition to the seminary, we're learning this very God-centered, biblically informed educational praxis. And I mentioned the servant leader type thing that comes into that. But also we learn a lot of secular educational methods and models, and we are invited to really engage with and critique and compare and think, how do I use the good things from this, and also have that be informed by like a biblical foundation as well. And I think that for me, an aha moment in that practice was just this kind of seeing the beauty of like what the Lord is doing outside of the church itself, in terms of how people are being understood and loved and helped, and really having a framework and a model to continue into the future, thinking what are good things that are happening outside the church, like good people who want to help people, who are studying and devoting their lives to developing different kinds of ideas. It's like you get a training in how to interact with those ideas as well, and how to really use this kind of natural revelation and just humanity's ability to think and innovate, and you're being taught how to integrate that into your Christian context. And so that whole learning by doing and learning by practicing, I don't think that's something I knew was going to come when I started the program, but as we got to the end of it, I could see this pattern through how my teachers taught that sort of shaped and informed how I then could also teach.
I think very quickly, the big aha moment for me in this program was last summer taking teaching and learning, which is one of the required courses with Dr. Long. And I remember we were learning about the 4 different learning styles, and then the learning cycle that was developed to correlate and make sure that every style is hit. And we were on a Zoom call and for one of our weekly classes, and I remember sitting there and like we had just gotten back from a group discussion and we were talking about like what we had learned about the learning styles, and I had this moment where I was discussing like how the group discussion really helps me as this kind of learner better process the information. And then I looked at Dr. Lung and I was like, you're doing this right now, like this cycle that we're learning about, you're making us do the cycle as you teach it to us. So it was this weird like moment of like we had conceptually learned it, but we were experiencing it in the class as we were discussing it together. And it really was this moment of like, this is awesome. This program isn't just head knowledge. It's applicable, and like also you get to experience. It's an experiential program, so I really enjoyed that moment.
Thanks, Taylor. Professor Lung is one of our adjuncts, and I would just say that our regular adjuncts are just as good or better than the full-time faculty. So there's a great example of that. Thank you, Taylor. Lavdi, you were going to say something. Go right ahead. And then I have another softball question I want to throw out.
I just want to resonate with that just Taylor said. Like, I joke with Dr. Moore. I wrote to him and I told him, you guys are magicians. Everything that we study, we see it firsthand. As Taylor was saying, like we learn about a method of learning or a principle, and then the teachers and the facilitators, the professors, they are teaching you in that way. So not only you are studying it, but you have a great example to see how they model what they are teaching to you. And this is something that I've never experienced before. And as Anne said a little bit before, because you are so concentrated in the learner, on us, and you are pouring not only what you know, your knowledge, but your love and your care, and you make sure that we are taking the best of this program, and you are making sure that we are applying it in our ministry. So I want to say thank you one more time.
Thank you, Lavdi. That's very kind. That's very kind. Okay, our time just flies by. We could talk about this all day, couldn't we? But let me just ask one quick question, and several of you may want to respond to this, but what should I have asked that I didn't? Or what do you want to say? What's kind of burning there that you say, we need to make sure I say this? Maybe we can just kind of pop that in, and then I'll see if Dr. Guthrie has any other comments, and then I know we have some questions to answer too as a group. So what do you want to say that I haven't given you a chance to say, Siri?
Oh, well, it's not that it has not been said, but I just want to emphasize or resonate with what Ladvi said, actually, that the fact that I see that the prof in the program are educator to a kind of really deep core. So the process, the way we learn or the way they teach is by itself learning for us. So I think this is very specific to the program compared to maybe other type of classes where it's more like a transfer of knowledge. And so what I appreciate, and I think everybody will appreciate in the educational ministry, is that you learn the content, but you also learn from the way the content is presented to you. And that to me was, because of my background, it's something that I really paid attention to. And I realized that in the context of the church, most of the time, there's no real reflection. How do we actually do discipleship? How do we build community life? It's just all recipe and replication instead of thinking of I need to adjust it to my context. And this is what, to me, the program provides us with, the reflection and the capacity to reassess the tools and the methods of what we want to do. So yeah, it's maybe a repetition, but this is, to me, something that I really appreciate about the program.
When I started the program, my friends were worried about me if I was going to experience this kind of being in a seminary, and like how can you do this online when you are not in a class, in a physical class? So and now they have changed their minds, that some of them are considering doing an online seminary. But something that I wanted to add, since I am the fully online, is that you get in touch with the professors and with the classmates in a way that you wouldn't be able to experience, even though you would be in a physical class. Like, I am an introvert person. I don't take the initiative to talk with people that I don't know. But the way the class is organized, I have no other choice. I need to work with other people, and I need to write into the forum post. So this kind of environment, that you are with other people and you are with other colleagues. We call each other here at TEDS colleagues, with other colleagues, and you are learning from where they are, from their context. Like, I'm in Albania and I don't experience the things that my colleagues are experiencing, but because we have this kind of community with each other, I can learn from them, they can learn from me. So it's not only the professors who help you study more and become a better a Christian, but also the community of the students, the community of your colleagues, that helps you go deeper in your faith and understand contexts that you wouldn't be able to be part of, because I live in Albania. So this is one other thing, Dr. Moore, that I wanted to emphasize. I have two friends that I think we're going to be friends forever, because we have been taking the same classes and we have been working together.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, Lavdi. Just the ability to be able to, in my class right now, which is online, fully online, there are individuals from across the country and across the world. And whatever context you're in, I think our ministry is becoming much more global. And really, one of the things I really wanted was to have other different perspectives kind of speak into the context that I'm in ministry, so that I can serve the people around me better. And totally, that's what I found in our community as well, even in the short time that I've been in it.
I just want to speak just a little bit to kind of the program beyond just the educational ministry courses themselves. So I did the MDiv, but I know that part of the MA/EM program includes these theology courses and Bible courses. Like, you get a more robust theological training as well. So if you're thinking, I want to go to seminary and I want to learn about God, this program does that also. And you get access to other departments at TEDS, and just the wealth of knowledge and resources that Trinity has to offer, while getting to focus in on this very specific practical line of, like I said, how to actually do it. And then all of our professors in the program are also theologically trained in broader ways as well. And so you get a robust full seminary experience, even as you decide to focus in on the educational ministries aspect.
Mind if I unmute myself and ask a couple of questions here?
So let me say one thing, or a couple things before you do that, Ryan. the definition we have of educational ministries in our department, to Anna Lynn's point, is quite broad. So for instance, we really want to work with the participants in order to find out what's best for them. We've had participants in the program take homiletics, for instance, as a educational ministries concentration course, because they knew that preaching was an important part of how they were going to be doing their educational ministry. So we work individually with people to sort of customize what they're doing. I'm going to turn to Donald in just a second, but one thing I do want to mention too is that one thing that some persons that are post MDiv might be interested in that we haven't talked about, and that is the Master of Arts. I'm sorry, the THM program, the Masters in Theology program that is post MDiv, but concentrates in educational ministries. And sometimes that program is appropriate for a post-MDiv person vis-a-vis the MA in Educational Ministries program. And again, that's usually a matter of advisement. So if you're interested in that, you can talk to us and we will try to help you think through the implications of that particular connection. It's a smaller program because it's post-MDiv, but nevertheless, it's a possibility. So Donald, and then I'm going to turn it back to you, Ryan. So thank you for the wonderful comments, colleagues, of what you've been saying.
Yeah, thanks. I think I'll enroll. This is very, very exciting. I'm good. I'd say let's go to questions.
Thank you. Yeah, Dr. Moore, you set it up quite nicely. There's a couple of questions that came up recently, and I hope you don't mind, Anna Lynn, I'm going to put you on the spot because I think that both of these questions are something that you can relate to. One of them is, perhaps you already kind of answered this. I just want to ask it again in a different way. One of our attendees is wondering, how does Scripture shape or inform the program's philosophy of education? Now, I think that Dr. Moore and Dr. Guthrie could answer that, but Anna Lynn, you sound like someone who's been through the entire program, and maybe you can speak to what you received.
Certainly. So I can't speak completely to how it shaped the program on the, on the forming side of it, but as a participant, I can say that repeatedly in classes, you have these assignments where you're asked to develop a theology of ministry, or a theology of leadership, or a theology of power. Even like you get these opportunities to take a topic that you're studying in class and rigorously put it through the exegetical skills and biblical study skills that you're developing as well, in order to, I think, learn and practice how to do that moving forward. And then similarly, every class has a large component where the professor is sharing this biblical foundation for, like, why are we doing this? How are we thinking about this? I'm thinking about, like, in the teaching and learning context, like, we've got our textbooks and our resources that we're studying have to do with that biblical foundation that runs throughout. And so as we're thinking about the learner, as we're thinking about what our role is as a shepherd or as a teacher, it's not to be smart and to deliver the right answers and present the content the way you've decided you want to present it. It's about submitting to the examples that we have in Scripture, and studying those examples in order to inform ourselves. So there's this back and forth of getting this foundational information before you start, and then also taking what you've learned and putting it back into a biblical theological context in order to practice doing that into the future. So I don't know if that answers completely, but it was very cohesive.
I think that's very helpful. I love your perspective on that. Dr. Moore, you opened up by sharing with us how why students might choose this program. And I think that every student that chooses TEDS is valuing TEDS's commitment to scriptural truth and the inerrancy of Scripture. And I think that is something that no matter what program you choose, that's a reason to choose TEDS. And then once you make a commitment to that, then there's a lot of great programs. There's a lot of ways, as Dr. Guthrie mentioned, this is not this is a means to a different ends. This is not the end in and of itself. So there's a lot of ways to get there. Dr. Guthrie, I don't know if you want to add anything onto this. A question did come up about the THM. I take it that this student who submitted this question is either pursuing an MDiv or has an MDiv, much like Anna Lynn, and is considering the next degree. That could be educational ministries, that could be THM, and of course there's even other options. Would you mind just maybe sharing a few sentences on what some options are? Is there a difference between educational ministries and a THM? But what could be a student's next step after the MDiv?
Yeah, sure. THM is a deeper dive into whatever the person dives into. I mean, in short, it can include educational ministries. It is not uncommon for a person to get a THM and then use that as preparation to go to PhD studies a little bit later or right away. We've had a number of folk do that in our program from either from the MA or the THM. THM can also be around the world. It can be a terminal degree. It can enable you to teach in institutions. It can enable you to lead out in institutions and organizations. So that's fairly common too. We seem to have I would say, a steady but not a huge population of THM folk over the years, and some continue with us in our PhD program, and some that's it for them and off they go. So we have a little bit of everything in terms of where folk go and how they use it.
Thank you so much. Another question came in about scholarship opportunities. I'll take 30 seconds and answer that from my perspective, from an admissions perspective. And if any students want to chime in, if you had a different experience, please feel free to do so. A couple of folks are wondering what scholarship opportunities are available. Simply put, from an admissions standpoint, we have a scholarship application. There are a number of different scholarships. Some of them are endowed, some of them are institutional discounts, but either way, we encourage every student to fill out the same scholarship application. Your enrollment counselor can show you where that is, but it's also able to be found on the TEDS website. And there are certain scholarships on there which are available for folks who are studying online or who are studying on campus, or who have full-time or who have part-time, or there's some that are program specific on there. So I would say every student has an opportunity to receive some scholarships. Some are strictly based on GPA and leadership potential. So everybody should be encouraged to fill out a scholarship application. It doesn't cost anything to do that. It takes a few minutes, and most students who fill that out receive some scholarships. That's all I want to say about scholarships. Does anybody else have anything to add about scholarships? I hope I did a good enough job, but okay, great. That can also be a question that we can take offline. So if you want to know if your current ministry involvement qualifies you for anything, that's a one-on-one conversation to be had with the admissions office. Great. We had one more quick question, which I can answer quickly. Is there housing available on campus? There is. Some of our students who are taking classes on campus can reside on campus, and we have room in our dorms if you're looking for that kind of an experience, maybe with some more mature students, not college freshmen. We do have dorms available for graduate students, as well as studio apartments, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 3-bedroom apartments. Trinity is extremely family friendly. It's a very safe environment. It's a very safe college town. There's playgrounds on campus. So depending on the size of your family, there definitely is housing available on campus. It's not a requirement. So we do have students who live nearby. Julie, I think you're one of them. You live close to us, and that's certainly an opportunity as well. There's not a lot within walking distance of the Deerfield campus, but there is a lot of great things to do within a short drive of campus, within 10 minutes of campus. Almost every business and type of restaurant you might want is around here. Great location. So certainly, and a great cafeteria. If you're on campus, take advantage of the cafeteria. They have discounted meal plans for graduate students, and it's ranked some of the best food on a college campus in the country. So I recommend that if you do stay on campus. If you visit campus, I will buy you a meal. So just let me know if you decide to visit campus. We want everybody to experience that. We're kind of done with the content a few minutes early, so I'll open up the microphone again. We can end early, or we can fill up the remaining few minutes with some additional questions if anybody has them, or additional comments if anybody has anything left to say.
I just wanted to say quickly that I put my email address there in the thing, jmoore@tiu.edu. And you certainly can communicate with the admissions office. And I always say they know all the logistical questions that I don't know. For instance, scholarships, I don't know. But I'm happy to interact with you if you have questions about the program. Feel free to email me directly as well. So I'll turn back to our panelists, who I thank you very much for joining us today, as well as those of you out there with some great questions and great interaction. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I just want to say one final thing. As somebody who never saw themselves going back to school after college, I wasn't the best college student. And you know, I don't know, the traditional form of learning of just lecture and absorb information is not, it's not ideal for me, and not the best way that I learn. And but coming and doing this program, because they use various styles of teaching and they are learner centered in their approaches, and it is, as other people have pointed out, because it's online, it's flexible and you can do it on your own time. It has been a great fit for me with my weird schedule and just the way I learn. I have thrived in this program in a way that I would not have expected, given my my past educational history. So I really appreciate the program, and honestly, I'm glad I signed up.
Me too. I just want to continue what Taylor said. This is the best program ever. If you have doubts, please don't. You will enjoy it fully. I have 3 kids, and my kids see me studying and they are like, "You are so happy." And I'm like, "I'm learning so much." And it's hard work because it's a master degree. It's not a college degree, but it's so worth it. And they make it so easy for you. You just have to learn, and everything else they're gonna provide it for you, like the materials and the support that you need. So if you have doubts, please don't. This is the right place for you.
And the final word for me as well is, I think in the program you will feel that what you learn is really connected to what the life of the church. It's very set in the ground, and you will relate to most of the topic that you will actually touch in the program. This is what I really like. It's real practical, and you can apply it right away in your context, should it be a parachurch or even in church. And that's something that is really valuable, and that's why I like so much the program.
Thank you so much, Siri. Thank you as well, Julie, Lavdi, Taylor, Anna Lynn, Dr. Moore, Dr. Guthrie. It's been a great hour together, and thank you so much for your participation. And can't thank you enough. If there are any other questions out there, or if there's anybody watching this recording, like Dr. Moore said, please feel free to reach out in email, and we would love to meet you. We would love to answer any questions you might have. And of course, as I mentioned at the top of the hour earlier, those who are attending will receive a recording of this webinar as well. So thank you again, panelists. Thanks, attendees. Thanks, faculty. And we hope to see your questions. We hope to meet you by phone or email. And we certainly hope to have you on campus sometime soon. God bless you all.